Okay. Good evening. I will open us back up at 6:31 p.m. All board members are present. And for the report of action taken on closed session items, in closed session, the governing board took the following action. We voted to approve a settlement agreement in special education case SE number 2024-2025/01. Approved settlement agreement as presented. The motion was made by Dr. Christian Aguilar. It was seconded by Jeanette Flores, and the vote was 5-0. At this time, Mrs. Flores, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you very much. Welcome back again, people. We can jump right into our reports. Mrs. Flores, can you please give us your ROP report?
Yes, thank you. So ROP continues to plan. We've had a very busy summer, moving back into our Azusa Sierra High School facility. So we are back up and running. Hopefully no more copper thieves, but at this juncture, we're getting ready to start the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move into our superintendent's report. Dr. Jordan?
Great. Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, everyone. It's great seeing everybody again. It's been a while since we've come together. It's been a really good summer. Staff has worked extremely hard to open up school yesterday, and there's been a lot of activities going on. So we had a very successful first day of school. We got a chance to get to every school site, talk to all the principals, see the kids. It was operationally was smooth, and so really kudos to a lot of the behind the scenes work. You look at all of our departments of what we're doing, and if I start naming, I'm going to miss somebody. But you look at what you do to do the facilities to get a campus open, what you're doing with the technology to get it open, what you're planning for with the food services to get it open, what the principal does and the teachers are doing on the day-to-day, the custodial staffs that are at the school sites, what they're doing to make a successful first day, then all the departments, HR and what they're doing to make sure that the hiring, it's budget time that the business office is putting together, all the professional development that's done, Ed Services has organized all that, and when you put all that together, and you look at even like in the enrollment pieces, new kids are showing up every day. So when you look at all that, when it goes that smooth, and we've all been a part of many opening days, that tells me one thing. It tells me that we're doing really good work in Charter Oak Unified. It tells me that people are taking ownership and pride in their jobs, and they care about making sure that we give our kids the best. So I say thank you to all of them. I always appreciate the leadership from the board and the guidance that you give me and the resources so that we can do our jobs. And we're really excited about 24-25. It's going to be a great year. We had our welcome back last Monday, and thank you for those of you that were able to attend. It was great honoring our employees who have been here for a long time. Most notably, Bill Kilty at Charter Oak High School. We recognize him for 50 years of service, which was just great. And Bill's a great human being. And so we're glad that he's a part of the organization still. We did have a guest speaker, Art Athens, who came and spoke and really just talked about the importance of teamwork. And he referenced a lot of the Boys in the Book, or Boys in the Boat book. And really it resonated with, I think, a lot of people, got a lot of positive comments afterwards. And so what a great way to just kick off the year. Prior to all this, we had Charter Oak University, Charter Oak University is an opportunity for over a 3-day period where we provide professional development available to all of our certificate employees. And we also have certain groups of classified employees that get experience that as well. And what's really powerful is they get to sign up for the courses that they want to learn more about. And they also have input of the type of learning that they want to do. So way back in probably March, April, they started putting input of what they wanted. Over the summer, Ed Services tried to find out who wants to come, and then they put together that whole training. So really appreciate the work on that as well. Summer school was phenomenal. We had over 1,300 students from TK through 12 participate, or K through 12 participate in summer school. And so really trying to expand that learning for our kids and give them an opportunity to stay connected to what we do every day. The last thing I want to announce is that we just received an email from the LA County Registrar's Office saying that, directly from their office, that stating that Charter Oak Unified election for the school board in November has been canceled, as there was nobody that ran against the incumbents, and all incumbents will be approved or will be appointed in lieu. So just so the community knows, there will not be an election in November. All three of our candidates, which is Mrs. Flores, Dr. Aguilar, and Mrs. McGuire, will be appointed at our December meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you. Welcome back.
Moving right along, we have our first presentation. Dr. Jordan, will you be doing the introductions?
I will, thank you. So if you guys recall, back in May, I left in my report kind of something for the board to think about as a school district. What do we need to start looking outward for as our vision? And there were 3 areas I talked about. We need to look at enrollment. We need to look at keeping our eye on the budget and having outward plans. And then the third thing is, what are some generating revenue ideas that we can continue to look at using some of our existing assets so that we are putting Charter Oak in a good spot still in the out years, and we're not waiting until an emergency from the state or something happens that's unknown, and then you're scrambling to try to put a plan together. So I'm going to turn it over to our CBO, Krill Branford, who will do our introductions. So tonight we're looking just at some potential things for the board to look at, big picture, in revenue generating ideas. Krill.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'm pleased to introduce Serene Ibrahimian. Serene is with Orbach, Huff, and Henderson. Serene, it's you.
Jumping right into the presentation. So again, the board knows, because we went through a pretty involved surplus property process over the last couple of years in order to long-term lease or sell district property. There is a surplus procedure that the district can engage in. In order to sell, the district definitely has to engage in this process. For long-term leasing, there are alternatives, which we'll cover in the next slide. Just to recap that process, again, I know the board is familiar with it because you did engage in this process, but typically what's required is that a committee of between 7 and 11 members are appointed by the board. It's a Brown Act committee that's formed by the board to review the property information. That's the property that's under the committee's purview, property or properties, and provide recommendations to the board about the best options for the property. Around the beginning of 2022, a committee, a 7-Eleven committee was formed. You had a very active and engaged 7-Eleven committee, and they made some very good recommendations to the board around the Sunflower site, which of course the board considered, then deemed the property surplus and went through the steps. So in order for property to be sold, there has to be a surplus resolution that's approved by the board. And then there is the opportunity to engage in public offerings and public bidding under the surplus statutes. The district can also seek a waiver of those requirements through the State Board of Education, which the board chose as the option to pursue, and public bidding requirements were waived by the State Board of Education. That was sold to a developer for a longer-term housing development. So in addition to this option, which is the surplus property statutes, there are alternatives that the board can consider. So you see here a list of what those alternatives are. Of course, so to be clear, again, the district to pursue these options would not have to form a 7-Eleven committee and go through the surplusing steps. So in order to exchange property, where the district exchanges one of the district sites for another site that's brought to the table for an even exchange, the district can pursue under Education Code 17536 that option, and we'll see a little more about that in the next slide. The next few options, so joint use, joint occupancy, and fee-producing infrastructure facilities, really center more around leasing. So under the joint use statutes, which are found at Education Code 17527 et sec, the district can procure short-term leases of up to 5 years if the board makes 3 findings that are specified in the Ed Code that basically the district's programs on that site won't be impacted by the use of short-term lease or the use of that facility. And the district charges fair market rent, but there are, of course, certain exceptions under the statutes, and we would help you navigate that. Joint occupancy is for an up to 99-year term lease. Under the joint occupancy statutes, the district can, again, go through a request for qualifications and proposal process where developers can provide proposals or submit proposals for the long-term development and ground lease of the property. The reason why that statute has been utilized more often lately or is being considered by districts is because the district maintains a presence on the site. So part of the opportunity there is that the district can request, like for example, we have one that we've negotiated where the developer is upgrading a child development center that's near the site that's being developed by the private developer, but is being, the CDC is being upgraded per the district specs and requirements and becomes part of the overall project. And of course, the community benefits from the CDC upgrade. And so that type of thing can be built in. We're also doing another one where recreational facility is being built by the developer as part of the project that's going to be open to the community and available for use. Fee-producing infrastructure, that's for an up to 35-year lease, and there are only specific types of leases that fall under that, which of course I can explain more of if the board is interested, but primarily because we have some districts that are thinking outside the box, as you all are, on fee-generating opportunities. For districts that are considering billboard projects, for example, where the district ground leases to a billboard company, and a billboard structure is built and revenues are generated from that lease, that's typically procured under the fee-producing infrastructure facilities statutes. And then, of course, employee housing, which we're all hearing a lot about. There is an exception to the surplus statutes for developing employee housing projects, and that's under Education Code 17391B. So moving on, I did want to touch and get into a little more detail on the exchange process because that is something that districts are finding as an attractive option because you don't have to go through all of the surplus steps that are required in order to sell property or to ground under the surplus statutes. And also the benefit of this is that in some cases the district can provide what are the district's asks, wants, and needs for a property that they want to exchange into. For example, if they want more housing for, let's say, their cities, then they could potentially exchange into a residential multi-residential project that's already been developed, if that's something that a developer brings to the table for a potential exchange. So the requirements for this, again, under Education Code 17536, the board shall adopt by a 2/3 vote a resolution declaring its intention to exchange the property. Outside of that 2/3, of course, what's very much recommended is just like when you it was, of course, a good proposal that was brought to the district by the interested buyer. The district would engage in due diligence for the property that it's going to engage in and vice versa. And so just some recommended steps around exchange and some of what's being considered by district. To navigate this, we did just talk about the exchange agreement, but before getting there, in order for the parties that are considering exchanging into each other's parcels to be more educated about each other's properties, the parties can enter into what's called an exclusive negotiating agreement. During that time, again, the parties would explore whether an exchange is feasible and identify the properties that the district would consider exchanging into. And then, of course, negotiate the exchange agreement, including the price and terms of that agreement. The board would consider approval of the exclusive negotiating agreement, so that would give the parties some time to work with one another to develop, again, what are the price terms and conditions under which the exchange would occur. And then when comfortable to bring the exchange agreement to the board for approval, then, of course, the exchange agreement would be brought and the board would consider it at that point. Otherwise, without engaging in the E&A period, of course, the district would still engage in a due diligence process, but would go right to approving the exchange agreement. So that's also an option. And that's the end of the presentation. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Jordan for questions. There isn't a set time frame in the statutes for how long it's valid, but usually you don't want to go too far. The recommendation report was made to the board. Usually we say between valid and viable for the board to consider the options that were made or the recommendations that were made.
Exchange portion of it, hypothetically, it could be both property and money. Say we have $1 million property, we exchange it for other property that's $600,000, and then we get $400,000 cash to it, so it can be both.
Yes, so that is an option. Of course, in the perfect world, but I mean, that's not easy to do, and especially because oftentimes the district has that, and it's trying to exchange into a specific kind of property. So yes, you can make up the difference with a cash payment.
Facility, does that equal land, or does it have to be building on that?
It can be both. It can be all of the above.
Any other questions?
Quick question. Maybe it's a little more for Dr. Jordan. Within the district at the current time, examples of options that were, I shouldn't say options, but avenues in which we already have either leases or anything like that the district is operating with. There's examples we currently have. So like, for example, Sunrise.
So currently, the main rental unit that we have, if you will, would be the old Ruddick campus, which is where Sunrise Christian is. And so they rent that facility from us annually, which creates a revenue in that example. Ms. Branford, to the best of my knowledge, we don't have any other property that we're pulling. Well, yeah, so there also are some very small ones, like on the corner with the preschool. That's a much smaller revenue generation.
Okay. That's currently what the district operates.
Correct.
at, okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Rose? Ms. Flores? Thank you, Serene.
I think what we would like also from the board is for staff to go back and work on one of these options just as a hypothetical so the board can see what that would look like. We would work with Serene to put some dollars amount to that as well. Are there any of these in particular that you would like us to explore? We can't explore them all, right? But is there an area that you'd like us to start with? From when you look at surplus property, which is what we did at Sunflower, versus any type of an exchange of property that can maybe bring us more revenue than what we currently have, joint use?
I like the idea of the land exchange, with some of the property we had, even using the parcels like we did up at Sunflower. Green spaces, et cetera. We have something that is advantageous to build it. See what we can work out with that, what possibilities we have with that.
I'd like to hear about exchange as well, with some cost analysis, what we currently bring in as revenue versus possibilities of additional revenue. Anyone else?
With an exchange, there's also obviously like a responsibility if whatever way that land is used, whatever way that revenue is generated, right? I mean, there's operational costs associated with that too, right? So I think it's intriguing. I like that. I like that as an overall option. A reservation is that it's like, okay, that's, are you getting involved in something that is, a little outside of obviously education? Okay, purely education. But in the interest of being, creative and looking forward to difficult challenges in the future, or hopefully not, but anticipating if there ever could be, I think that's good. Having gone through the Sunflower property, surplus property, that we obviously took advantage of a very key time to be able to utilize that property in the way that it was utilized or sold and contribute funds to where they were needed. So that was great, but I do like the idea better of land working for us rather than being lost and being only a one-time injection. Yeah.
Great, then what we can do is we'll sit with staff and come up with some options, and we'll bring Serene back with what that could look like. And again, just as a big picture, here's something to consider, and we can keep going deeper. Mr. Rose.
Yeah, I just had a thought. I'm hearing from others. I just want to know about the enrollment numbers in the next 10 years. That's something I think we need to look into before we consider options. Give an idea how we can fill in the gap financially, to support the school district in the next 10 years. Is there any way we can have some kind of like a demographic studies by the consultant to give us the information what that will look like in 10 years?
Actually, in our next presentation, you're going to see that answer. We read your mind. we have that ready. So you'll see what the next 10 years with the demographer is looking at.
Okay.
And I think to your point, and certainly this is a whole nother conversation, you're right. We want to still look outward of what our facilities are going to look like and what the needs are. So yeah, I think hang on to the next one. I think we'll answer that for you.
And I also did have one more follow-up, and this may be for Serene. So are there, for curiosity's sake, are there restrictions as to geographical location in which land can be located if it's being exchanged or being operated by a school district? Are there any kind of restrictions that it has to be within certain proximity of the district or anything like that at all?
Not statutorily, no, but considerations beyond that. I'm certain the board and the public would have some opinions, but
Right.
yeah, we're not statutorily restricted.
It's good. All right, we'll get to work. It's good. Thanks, Serene.
Dr. Jordan, do you want to do the next?
Yeah, I'll do the next intro. So There are two components that we want to share with the board today. One would be an update on where we're at with this year's District of Choice. And then the second one is to share our enrollment for this year, as well as some outward projections. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Kim, who will tee this one up.
All right, I'd like to introduce our Director of Student Services for Child Welfare and Attendance, Mr. Joey Starkula, who's going to present what is annually required of us by Education Code, as well as a bigger exploration around enrollment, as Dr. Jordan pointed out. So, Mr. Starkula, please take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Thank you. First, and then the Zeus Unified as well. A small window for families to have to particular school the following year. Again, a lot of families at that time don't know where they're going to be that following year. So that is a challenge that all districts have, not just ours, when it comes to enrolling students in a district of choice. So we're really going to continue our advertisements, social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, marketing, bulletins, dojos. Covina and I, that Rose Bowl game hits, you got to decide whether or not you're going to have that application for DOC. So if you know anybody, what actually we do encourage folks to do, there is no harm in cost $0. Otherwise, it looks pretty consistent, and a really good decision and choice for us as a district to continue at DOC. And right now, it's overall, the last 5 years has been a great investment. Inter-district transfer permit 24/7, 365 a year. Yeah, we don't have any set window when a family can apply to come into our district on district transfer. That is correct.
With these applications, whether it's incoming or outgoing, is there information data on those applications that indicates, are they asked why or any kind of reasoning or anything like that for making the move?
No, nothing formal applications, informal conversations that we have. In fact, we get to know all the 18 families and talk to them quite a bit. And again, various reasons, they move. They might be expecting to, have transportation in the area from a family friend that doesn't work out. It varies up and down, yeah. Sports programs, VAPA programs.
Right.
Those are interest as well.
Okay.
We tend to see a lot of those students actually here that live outside our district or are on a permit that participate in our programs. But that would be definitely a good way for those families that are looking to come to our district that might not get released is to fill out the DOC. They don't live in Azusa, Pomona, or Aurora.
Right. Thank you.
Station is our TK Kinder Push. Exact science. When families enroll for TK, overnight you can get 10, 12 new applications. So we really got to have a massive team effort and involvement in facilities technology. The entire district wide to awesome to see as far as being able of office of enrolling these kids and trying to balance them around and moving this. This is a 40,000 snapshot overview of information here and charts and colors. Again, thanking Debbie for dealing with all my chart stuff here. But if you look like as of this morning, we are plus 44 district-wide from where we were last year on the last day of school. Again, this is just a Something maybe to note here, if you look and rent, and we do have a phenomenal Oak No online program here in our district. A lot of from surrounding districts because of the phenomenal Oak No. Outside of COVID as well, so and we've taken a couple different. This is a 10-year kind of snapshot of where our district is broken down per site. And the way the company works, the report works, is they give us a projection of what it looked like for really, really low, meaning it's fallen off the cliff here, really, really high where things turn around and real estate drops significantly and we have more affordable housing, or the middle section, which is what we used here called recommended or moderate. So this is the recommended enrollment projection that they gave us. And what we're going to see, this is non-exact science. They do use census data, building permits, historical data by school and birth rate. When it comes to analysis in there. DNPNSS stands for non-public school. If you're wondering what that particular title is, those are our students that are in non-public schools throughout the area. And I know for me, being a former high school principal, as you're looking at 2324, 1276 to in 10 years, 2032, 33, it's 1025. That's an interesting jump there. And then off, but we're not rising a huge cliff here, so it's just a steady flow there where, roughly you're looking at a couple hundred kids difference. Again, this is just to kind of talk about project out. This first column is what the demographers projected for our district, minus the 65. So not a huge difference there, but every kid counts. This year, they projected us for 3981. As of yesterday, August 14th, we came in at 4173, again, minus the alternative site. So it's plus one. And if you look at their next out years, 25, 26 projections there, again, you just don't know. It's not exact science. They definitely do look at some data, but ultimately what it is just a projection. So I'll be very curious to see where we end up this year compared to where they projected when it's all said and done.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Mr. Rose?
The projected enrollment by school, the chart that we all look, that projected enrollment number also include TK kids coming into our school district?
Yes.
Really including in this report?
They did account for TK. In fact, they even accounted for the age dropping to again, in that report, actually, they have broken down by grade level per site, and it shows you their TK projections, a little like things like 221 students they eventually project out to. So if you go 20 to 1 with the 10 classes we have right now, that'll be about 200 students that we can house for this particular school year. We've actually already gone to the lowest rate for birth rate, so meaning we are a year ahead of what the CDE wanted us to do. So therefore, according to projections, you wouldn't anticipate a lot higher number than the 220 based off of birth rate and building permits and things of that nature of what our district has. Good question.
I have another question. The projection enrollment bar graph, and you mentioned that it seemed like there was not a huge drop or huge increase, but more stable. Is that projecting? I mean, is that because we the TK actually cushioned it help us really balance the number of enrollment down the next 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So lowering that TK is just TKH mathematically, you're going to have more students eligible to be in TK through 12 education. So again, just from a math standpoint, the more full students you have is going to help you as far as if we didn't, again, to your point, it might have been a little more drastic decline if the CDE didn't lower that age over the last 3 years.
Okay, one last question. The number of students transferring into Charter Oak, is that is called inter-transfer?
Inter-district.
Inter-district. I mean, how many do we have right now?
For the 24-25 school year, off the top of my head, I think we roughly have about 78 students that we've taken on an IDT plus our DOC in Allenville. So those are the 3 avenues to get in to the school district. So it's either in Allenville or you work in the area, you apply for a permit, and the other district has to release you on the permit, or the third would be the district of choice presentation that we did earlier. And again, I believe, when I looked a couple days ago, we were about at 70, 75, 78 or so.
Around there. Thank you.
I can get
Back to
Dr.
you.
Jordan that exact number for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Peterson?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the work on this, Joey. I know it's a lot of work. In regards to what Mr. Rose was just talking about, are those IDTs and DOCs, are those projections included in this, or is this just straight up what's anticipated coming in without?
So, yeah, their projections, that is included in this because they do look at our historical school data by grade, by school site. So I think they take those trends that they've seen over the years. So yes, they are projected in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Aguilar?
Thank you. So I'm curious, how often is the model updated, or is this, work that was done, let's say a year ago or so, and then that's kind of, it's good for 10 years until we kind of do the next processing?
They actually gave the report last spring.
Okay.
So this is a recent model that they just did.
Okay. And then when would be the next time if we might receive another demographic analysis or report?
Part of they use the census data
Okay.
for that.
So typically wait
Yeah,
for the
so
10
you
years.
wait till the next census comes through.
Okay.
And then you obviously would renegotiate with them a new contract to explore what that would be.
Okay. And then my second question, you mentioned that in the projection, they kind of have a year over year by grade level breakdown of what they're projecting. Do we also analyze that backwards, so to speak, to look at, okay, here we have school site level enrollment changes and fluctuations, but looking at grade by grade, do we see any kind of unusual increases or decreases, grade over grade, or anything like that?
That's a great question. We've actually have been looking at that in particular because back to those IDT permits, most surrounding districts have a 6th through 8th middle school. So we're really looking hard to see what our 5th grade numbers look like, 6th grade numbers, 7th and 8th, to see if there's an unusual blip between those numbers there. And also working kind of with my colleagues and asking too what their numbers look like to see if that's usual or unusual. Yes, we definitely are analyzing all that data.
Great, thanks. And then lastly, looking at the positive numbers, great numbers, really encouraging numbers as of this morning, so that's awesome. Looking at where we're seeing the net positive, net negative differences, the alternative campuses, look where we have the decrease, which includes Sunflower, Arrow, Sunflower Bridges. Now, Are some of those students that are returning to Charter Oak High School? Is that part of that? Okay, so they might be lumped in. But if that is part of it also, I noticed at Charter Oak we have 9. Sunflower Arrow Bridges, a larger decrease, right? So probably, I'm assuming, trying to, without looking even more detail, but with the numbers here, we still have more students leaving the high school to go elsewhere than we do have students returning from our own alternative campuses.
That is correct. Ultimately, we are in a decline room.
Yeah.
Yes, that is 100% correct. And again, if you look at the alternative site numbers, especially at the beginning of the school year, they are going to be much lower because the goal is to get those kiddos back to the comprehensive setting for their senior year. And then you'll see a bump at the semester when 12-week grades come out. And then Bridges right now at the beginning of the year is really low. We hope that stays low because obviously that is, for more behavioral purposes. But yeah, ultimately, if you look at it, betting man, when it's all said and done, I think if we stay even this year, because again, that 44 is as of today, but we're still making phone calls and families that haven't shown. We've only had 2 days of school, so a lot of families actually right now, especially the younger ones, still just haven't enrolled yet in school. I know Covina Valley's getting ready to start, Bonita's getting ready to start, so as those programs are full, we're anticipating maybe some of our TK caters to grow as well if they're full. But at the secondary level, we're anticipating those numbers to drop as we go through the absences to say, okay, this family actually is not coming after all, even though we've been holding a schedule for them. So being 44 today, I would be ecstatic if we stay even over the next couple of weeks or so when the dust settles. And then by December, if we're still in the green, I think that's a huge positive based off of all the projections that we've heard over the past 5-6 years of, the sky is falling.
Right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very, oh, I'm sorry.
I want to have a discussion with the board. I want to ask something about not only the report, but that I noticed that we have seen more units being erected around in our district. That's probably not included in this report because we don't know who's going to come in and live in the new units. I've seen an increase in unit rent, but we also have seen union already open, one on Sienica and one on Iowa Highway, and a couple more places that already been filled, I believe. Do you have any idea whether any of the new unions I mentioned brought in students in our school district? You know anything about the information, demographic, what the age range, were their family in the unit or not? Do you know anything about it?
No, nothing yet. And to your point, there has been a decent amount. There's some on Sunflower, Bonnie Cove that have gone up. I do know that we sold the Banner property, those homes, to my recollection, we didn't get one student from an 80-day standpoint that enrolled. But the recent new homes and the duplexes and the condos that have been built, I don't know yet if we've got any students from those
Okay.
particular units, yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. And I use this analogy a lot, being someone who lives in district. I know, I live in a cul-de-sac of 13 homes. Within a couple years, all 13 of those homes will have no children living in them. But the people living in them are still young, healthy, property tax, things of that nature. They don't plan on moving anytime soon. So it really does come down. It's a safe community. People want to be here. They want to stay here. But ultimately, the kids just aren't coming like they used to.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have public comment. Do we have any cards?
We do.
Who is it? First up, we have Mr. Portillo. The subject is Jeanette Flores lying during official governing board meetings. Mr. Portillo?
And it's not just Charter Oak. Believe it or not, against all the money. Okay? But until I have the report, the investigation, the hard copy, which the president and Peterson has stated exist, I'm going to continue it.
Thank you, Mr. Portillo. Next up, we have Robert Montez on the subject of recognizing. Mr. Montez?
Vice President, Board. And thank you to all the board members and the superintendent. Every board member here, I can't say all your name because I'm on a time limit, but you're all appreciated. Thank you for attending school functions, showing up on our campus, making great decisions every day which affect our children and staff and other people we don't know about. Board members, you do great work. Thanks for attending the drama. Some of you board members sat in a hot parking lot, then entered an air-cooled room. Thank you, Bob and Nate. Thank you, Bob, for all those tough projects you and maintenance and ground staff completed for still or are still working on. Thank you, Dr. Meg, for all your hard work and tough decisions. In closing, keep smiling and stay safe and intelligent. And Mr. Joey Strikula for his perceptiveness and intelligence when hiring new staff and his demographics today. And last but not least, Mrs. Thompson for her photographs and hard work at Royal Oak in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to just stay up here? We have another card. Mr. Montez, we have one more.
Two cards.
Okay, I did. Yes, I did.
All right, and the next subject,
Completed one.
yes, yes. And this subject is Dr. Jordan, Dr. Kim, and Lori Mikesell.
Dr. Jordan and Dr. Kim, thank you so much for teaching the staff of cohort some leadership skills. I will add these to my CSCA leadership skills. Thank you to you and your staff in completing the best cohort leadership class of 2024. So right here, you two doctors, so I'll call you doctors, took your own time creating this class. Your connections supersede themselves. Your ambition towards staff was spectacular. Just want to say, never give up and endure life's expectations. Sincerely.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Moving right along, I will have a discussion on the proposed bond project list. Dr. Jordan?
Okay. Well, as you recall, we've been kicking the idea around of what are some things that we can generate, also some revenue to complete some facility needs in our district. And back in the early part of this year, we talked about a potential bond, facilities bond, and we talked about potentially even having that go out as early as the November 2024 election. We obviously went out and did a little bit more work by doing some polling in the community. And by doing that, we kind of said, you know, we probably have to do a little bit more work, be a little bit more specific on what we really need, and really work hard to educate our community, our staffs, of really what is it that we want to do for Charter Oak Unified, because whatever we do will have a forever lasting effect. So we want to make sure we get it right, and we want to make sure that we're doing the things that are going to best serve our kids. So I'm going to ask Dr. Kim to facilitate a conversation or a discussion with the board to kind of review some of the percentages and the polling that went forward, and then get the board to weigh in a little bit of what you would like us to do next. The soonest now that this board could go out for an election would be June of 26. So we have time, but we've got to start someplace, and we want to make sure that we're aware, the community understands that we really take this project very seriously because of the impact that it has. So, Dr. Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you for the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Madam President, trustees, a pleasure to really invite us to a discussion around really narrowing down and with the goal of having some direction from this board around how to really make a more specific or finite list, if you will, based on these topics, if you will, that we're going to engage in today. Before reviewing what you see before you on the screen, if I may, just bring us up to speed of where we've been in this journey or this process. And as Dr. Jordan pointed out, really is a process in making sure we do this the right way for our community. If you can recall, district engaged in developing a really thorough facilities master plan and capturing stakeholder input, making sure we understand what are the exhaustive needs that we have across a district. And in this massive facility plan, which is going to amount to millions and multi-millions of dollars, from there, this board really engaged in an opportunity to have a study session, a board workshop around understanding what are the major, lack of better words, priorities that we see based on the input from our stakeholders. We contracted out with a bond specialist who then worked with a research firm that helped us really understand what would our community members tell us through sample size about what they would in fact support. So what you see before you on this list is essentially those topics or headers, and I'll go through some of those briefly, and to the left and to the right, what it percent polled at in terms of what they strongly favored, and that's what the percentage represents. So if I may, on the left side, just a brief rundown. I won't go through an exhaustive kind of explanation of each. Some of them are very self-explanatory. Roofs, plumbing, HVAC, again, improving and repairing some of those components. Technology infrastructure, this is really key. This board approved a massive phase 1 of our technology infrastructure that's going to make some significant gains across our district. This is really completing that project out, this phase 2 component, to make sure that we're whole across the district. And so we're excited about that component. Removing hazardous materials, just the cost of doing business, construction, modernization, modernizing laboratories, technology facilities, providing classroom support for VAPA. We've seen a lot of gain and support around VAPA from the state. We've implemented good work and added new personnel to support the arts across our schools. So what would that look like if we had some facilities to strengthen and support that? Classroom support in the STEM fields. How might we be able to support and really bring about modernized facilities to strengthen math, science, and engineering? Student safety, that's always a priority of ours. How do we make sure that we're staying up to date with 21st century products, ideas, concepts, and implementing those across all of our schools? Modernization, essentially, upgrading older schools. Okay, as we all know, we didn't complete out the last bond, the work that's required in Royal Oak Middle School. How do we make sure that we prioritize that in this next potential phase? Replacing portables, again, as we know, that's an expensive process. Pick-up, drop-off into our schools, making sure ingress, egress is ideal and optimal for our families. Repairs to the stadium, a field house potentially, and restrooms. Again, that's something that is been considered as well. So, again, a list of topics to the left. On the right are respective percentages, and again, that percentage reflects what was found to be strongly favored. Again, a sample size of pollsters we're engaged with represents all walks of life in our community, and they were asked, would this be strongly favored? Would this be favored? And as an example, roofs, plumbing, and HVAC, 60.2% of our sample size said we would strongly favor that particular project, if you will. So at this time, I'd like to open up a discussion with this board and asking really ideas, affirmations, questions you might have, and allow us to really gather an input from you and moving forward for the next steps.
Board, do we have any comments? Ms. Flores?
I just would like to echo the technology infrastructure piece. I mean, what we have is probably already outdated, so I'm just really ensuring that that is a priority for us as we look to not only replace, but modernize, ensure that our students have the bandwidth, the equipment that they need to be successful. So I think the technology piece is something that's super important for us to really keep in mind as we move forward on this project.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Madam President. Yeah, I'd like to get more specific and push in on the security infrastructure component of it. Obviously, the students and our staff, it's paramount importance that we keep fire alarm, phase 2 control access. Just want to make sure that is a priority as we go.
Yeah,
Mr. Rose?
thank you. The two item I could think of right now up on the list. One of them, I'm a little iffy on it, but I'm sure the trustee will have more information on to remove hazardous material. Now, I'm not saying we should focus. I just want to know, I mean, we have quite a bit of hazardous materials in every school sites. Now, are we talking about removing hazardous material from every site, or what do you see in the survey?
A really good question. You notice that it polled very favorably. And really, when we mentioned the cost of doing business, when you engage in construction or modernization, you're going to notice that as you rip things apart, you're going to have to do asbestos testing. You're going to have to look for lead pipes and then make sure that any lead is removed. It's really that type of hazardous work material that is going to have to be engaged in as you start doing construction and modernization.
Okay, that probably tie into modernization, like upgrade older school, same thing. Probably tied together, right? I would say.
Correct.
Okay, and that's when I have thoughts here. Trustee, that's something we need to see in the next 10 years. What are the ways that we can invest in our project to bring students in? For example, 65, classroom support math, science, engineering, and the other one would be provide classroom support for PAC. They're kind of high on the list. That maybe is something we can look into it. More details, how we can, improve our infrastructure in the classroom to, and maybe increase class for engineering, science, etc. That's something I'd like to see more.
That's great.
Yes. Dr. Aguilar?
Thank you. I think first I want to kind of follow up a little bit on a question that Mr. Rose had a second ago. Talking about the hazardous materials, was that part, or do we have knowledge of presence of, or is there an analysis when this survey was originally completed? Was there any kind of survey in terms of discovering or knowing about, okay, which are buildings that may still have materials that if construction were to begin would require, removal of hazardous materials, or are there areas where that wouldn't be required because there are no hazardous materials there?
Let me jump in on this one. I think part of where that comes from with the experience that the pollsters have is they'll create also questions to get a feel for your community on the type of things that they would or would not support. So it doesn't necessarily mean that our campuses have hazardous material and anything. But like Dr. Kim said, when you start doing construction, you turn into a floor, you turn it into a wall. We have very old buildings. There's a really strong chance that you're going to have to do abatements for different type of things.
Right. Okay, yeah, that does kind of get to my question, because that was part of it is, as a general sentiment, absolutely, of course, if there's hazardous materials, we want to get rid of those hazardous materials, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean there are hazardous materials, right? So in a certain sense, as popular of a topic as that may be, cost-wise, that may not be a significant cost if there really isn't a significant level of dependence. Right.
What that really shows is that the community is valuing safety of their kids.
Right.
And that's why those numbers are high for support.
Thank you. And then the second comment I have, so Mr. Rose kind of touching on it there a little bit as well. In the middle there, we've got these three that to me kind of get grouped together, or I think there can be creative ways to group them together. The modernizing of labs and technology facilities, classroom support for math, science, and engineering, classroom support for VAPA and STEAM, which of course is science, technology, engineering, and, arts, and mathematics. So, these three all kind of, to me, look like a very intriguing way to be able to say, okay, these poll, 2 out of the 3 up here are actually in the top 3 polling-wise. That looks like a great opportunity to say, all right, are there creative projects that can actually address multiple of these in a way that actually combines and makes kind of more efficient use of funds. Sure. Whatever that looks like. Because in a lot of ways, when you're modernizing labs and you're trying to create classroom support for science and engineering, those two can kind of get built in together. You got the infrastructure piece, and then you got how the teachers and staff can utilize that new infrastructure piece, right? And you're kind of satisfying two things with kind of one significant push or approach. So, I think from the polling, that is awesome. Plus, it just excites me personally because I'm all about this team, right? Anything that we can do science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and the fact that our community really loves that as well, that just excites me. That's something we gotta really push forward on, I would say.
Great.
And I'll jump in here. I agree with everyone. I would take it a step further and say, notwithstanding the hazardous materials, because I feel like that's kind of a part of everything else. But that top 5, everything in the 60%, I'd like to see what a modernization plan would look like, where we upgrade our old facilities, and really paying a close eye on, like Mr. Rose said, those facility upgrades that we could use to help recruit new students. What do modernized facilities look like for our labs, our STEAM programs, our VAPA programs, and how can we just make our programs, which are already awesome, have really great facilities to match?
That's great.
Because I would even also add, I feel like that's also a significant strength that we already have in our district, at the secondary level especially. So to be able to create support for that, maybe at the primary level, that would be really cool. If there's spaces at the primary levels that can be modified in a way or updated in a way to create a little bit more of a science lab environment, for safety and for ability to do amazing things at the primary level, that's huge. And at the secondary level, staffing-wise, program-wise, we already have a huge strength there. So again, just kind of bolstering that up. I mean, case in point, I know recently the district acquired an anonymage table, and I think we previously discussed that. And that is an amazing piece of equipment. I mean, that's a piece of equipment that most universities don't have, and a few other districts may have them as well, sure, but it's a pretty unique thing. And so again, that's that evidence of, if you put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, you invest in the programs that are going to matter to the community, to the students, and then really empower them going forward, then we're doing the right thing. So.
And you give award-winning students the award-winning technology that they need to continue to be great. And then I also wanted to say, we kind of also brushed over roofing and plumbing and HVAC, but it's getting hotter here. I don't know if anyone's noticed that in the world. So I think it's super important that we make sure that our kids have proper air conditioning. So I want to make sure I make sure these schools have roofs that can take them through the next 20 years. And then also they can have air conditioning because it's hot. Thank you. Any other comments? You all have everything you need?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for facilitating that. We'll take these notes, we'll sit back with our district team and bring back some ideas to the board. Thank you. Good, thank you.
All right, friends, it's voting time. We're going to move over to item number 13 under business services, acceptance of completion and release of retention. Per Public Contract Code, the Board of Trustees is required to take action on the acceptance of completion of construction projects and to authorize staff to file the notice of completion with the County Recorder's Office in order to release the retention. Is there a motion? Mr. Peterson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Flores, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Dr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to educational services, resolution number 12-2324, Red Ribbon Week. It is recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 12-2324 for Red Ribbon Week, which will be October 23rd through 31st, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Flores, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Dr. Aguilar, is there any discussion? I'll call for the vote. Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Dr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to consent. Does anyone need to pull anything? Dr. Aguilar?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull item, let's see, what do we have here? 14C1 under human resources, classified, non-classified personnel assignment order.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Mr. Rose?
Yes, I like to pull 13B.
13B.
I can do that. That's for the, that's when the overnight field trip,
Okay.
if
13.
you know where I'm talking about.
13, B13.
Yeah, overnight field trip, Charter Oak High School football.
Where's that overnight right there? 13, right. B13,
Okay.
please pull.
Anyone else? All right, is there a motion to approve consent? Hold on, I'm not done yet. With the exception of item 13B13 and item 13C1. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Is there a second?
I'll
We got
second.
two seconds. Mr. Rose, all right. Okay, so let's move on to, oh, the vote. We didn't vote, just kidding. Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Dr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Consent passes 5-0. And then we'll move on to 13B13, overnight field trip, Charter Oak High School football, Mira Mesa. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rose, discussion?
Yeah, I have a question about the funding for the overnight trip. Dr. Jordan, this overnight trip is funded by the football club, and that what it is?
It comes out of Ed Services. Let me have Dr. Kim talk about that process.
Yeah, the football team and the students are going to be fundraising for this event, and as with all field trips, no student will be denied the experience based on a lack of funds.
So they raise funds to go to Mesa, Costa, overnight there to play football.
Correct.
How come it's not funded by the district itself?
It's located in San Diego County. It may be offset some by the school site's allocations, but like other field trips, we try to support. To the extent we can, but as well, students have some fundraising duties as well.
Yeah. What about? Okay, when they're gonna play football and get the team over the high school, are they gonna be wearing full uniform with helmets?
It's a CIF competition. It's inter-county. It's inter CIF county within San Diego County. So Mira Mesa High School is a
This is
team.
not uncommon. Matter of fact, there's a couple of local teams right now who just flew to Hawaii to play a football game.
Yeah.
So our football game, a non-league game in Mira Mesa, they would drive down on a sponsored bus that's approved by the board, go down on Thursday. I think they even have scheduled to do a college visit that day. They'll do a workout that day. They'll spend the night, and then they'll get ready to play on Friday. Regular CIF football game, and then they'll come home Friday night.
I have no problem with that. I just want to know why the district not sponsored it.
Well, the district doesn't, I mean, in a sense, there are district funds going towards this. We give each site allocation of principal discretionary money. We give an athletic budget to them as well. So they use a combination of multi-funding that from whatever the principal's given them, athletics, but there also are things that we don't fund everything for band. We don't fund everything for drama, everything for choir. So some of the co-curricular activities, unfortunately, do require some outside fundraising. But we try to sponsor as much as we can.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I feel that the district should pay 100% for the trip.
Well, I'm sure they would love you.
No, I mean, I'm serious because why would the football club pay for it and they go down with full uniform? It had Charter Oak. The helmet and equipment, everything belonged to Charter Oak. And I mean, I'm willing to see we could pay for them 100% of it.
I appreciate that. I think the board also needs to consider that there are literally dozens of programs that are in the same boat. And I would love to fund everything at 100%. I just don't know financially if any school district could do that because of those expenses.
Yeah, if I may, I think I would contribute a little to this conversation too. I mean, I think, yes, sentiment-wise, it would be wonderful if we could say, any program we've got, anything you guys want to do, the money's there for it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We have lots of programs, lots of students, all that kind of thing, right? In terms of them participating in the football game, do we fund for the transportation, the buses, from district funds?
Well, the site gets an allotment that they use, and they distribute that accordingly. And whatever amount they give the football program, they're obviously, over the course of the year, going to use more than we can actually give them.
Sure.
So that's where the fundraising of the boosters come
Right.
in to pick up the difference.
Or in this particular case, obviously an overnight stay is a little more unusual, right? I mean, one thing is participating in the event, and let's make sure they do that. So buses are there, and that's fantastic. And then the extra amazing opportunity to visit a college is a very valuable experience. But maybe, putting up 60, 70 people into a hotel, that's a large cost that may be disproportionate for other programs in terms of what we're supporting. And so requesting some fundraising or partnering with them as they do some fundraising is, a pretty smart thing. I know multiple of our other programs also do something very similar, where I know the district may support, or through the site-specific allocation of funds, be able to support transportation and a bus to get to an event. But if a particular activity were to decide, hey, we'd like to stay a night so that we can do an extra activity as well, okay, then, again, that partnership with fundraising, I think, is a great thing. And, I mean, when the football program or a band program or a choir program is in support of that, then, fantastic. I know when the choir went to Carnegie Hall and performed, that was incredible. Or when they went to Vienna, Austria, that was amazing. And that was a huge effort on the part of the students and the program to fundraise to make sure that they could all do that. With perhaps levels of district support for logistics and whatnot. But in terms of an entire trip like that, that's where that kind of community and fundraising and everything really bands together to make sure that it all happens for the betterment of our students. So that's kind of how I see an event like this as well. I'm happy to vote to approve something like this because I want the students to be able to participate in it. And the fact that the football program themselves are able to commit to fundraising to be able to help make that happen is a great partnership.
We'll work with the site and make sure that we can contribute as much as we can so that the kids have minimal costs to the extent possible.
Okay, I have a question. This is the CIF. So that counting at the records and win column, it does affect our playoff chances, right?
It's a non-league game.
It's not a league game. Oh,
It's a preseason game.
was it a preseason game? But it is a CIF.
Yes, it is.
I just want to know why when they were paying, the club paid for the trip to Mesa Costa, where they were being wearing full uniform that is representing Charter Oak. I just want to know if the district can pay maybe half of them, if that's something we can show the support to our football team. Why not?
I agree with why not, but the answer is because of money. And there are a lot of students, a lot of clubs, organizations, and sports who travel and represent our school district, and they actually have to still fundraise. Avid last year took all of the 11th and 12th graders to 3 college campuses, and we fundraised for that as well. Unfortunately, we did just have a presentation about declining enrollment. We are looking for creative ways to continue to fundraise for our district. I just don't think we want to set the precedent of paying full cost or close to full cost for any one particular team when we have several teams with several students and several clubs and organizations that also do really great work.
Okay, the Costa Mesa Costa is part on the schedule for the football season. It's established by the CIF, right?
It's established by the school, who enters into a contract with the other school, and it's sanctioned by the CIF.
Mr. Rose, I think I understand your sentiment. I think in a similar example, our choir that went to Vienna, they represented Charter Oak High School. They represented the school district. The students that performed there and competed there did a great job of fundraising for a very expensive endeavor. In addition to that, the school district and the school, to the extent that we were able to, did contribute and partner with them to make sure that they had a full and fantastic experience. And likewise, we intend on doing the same thing with this particular competition for our football team.
And this vote particularly not only approves the trip, but we ensure that no student will be denied because they couldn't participate in the fundraising or because they don't have enough money. So while we may not be compensating the entire trip for everyone, we will make sure that no one is left out.
Okay.
Who was it? I'm sorry, the interpreter has a question. Who was it that you said it was at the very beginning? You said someone approved this for the football team to use.
The site.
The suicides.
Thank you.
Him.
Do we have any other discussion on this item? All right, I will call for the vote. Mr. Rose?
No.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Dr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
I am also a yes, so that is a 4 yes, 0 abstentions, 1 no. Motion carries. Next item, 13C1, classified, non-classified personnel assignment order. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Dr. Aguilar, is there a second? Mr. Peterson, is there any discussion?
Just I'll be recusing myself from this particular vote.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mrs. Flores?
Yes.
Dr. Aguilar?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. And I am also a yes. That's a 4 yes, 1 abstention, 0 no. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next up is board comments. Mr. Rose, would you like to kick it off for us?
Yes. First of all, about the football, because it is CIF game. I want everybody in this room to hear perfectly clear what I'm going to say. I'm not saying no to the trip to Mesa Costa. I'm just saying that because it is a CIF game, they wear full uniform and helmet representing Charter Oak. I feel that the district should pay 100% for the trip. That's what the reason why I vote no. That we should not be forcing them to, not forcing, but using club money they have raised so much to go down there, especially if it's approved by the CIF. There is a non-league game going to happen. It's not like a field trip to the museum. It is a football game. CIF recognized it. Even though it's a non-league game, I feel the district should pay for 100%. That's my position. Say no. I said it strongly about this. I feel very strongly about this, and I don't want any miscommunication in the community. I want to make sure it's perfectly clear that why I said no. I want the district to pay for the football trip down to, Mesa Costa. They'll have a good time down there. Great, fantastic. School off to a good start. I'm hoping all the teachers are ready to roll to another school year, 24-25. Here we go. And looking forward to good things happening in the district. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mrs. Flores?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I want to first give a shout out to Bob, Lynn, and his team. They didn't rest all summer. He was at the high school. I think you slept there a few times. But I know there were so many upgrades done to all of our campuses. So thank you, Bob, and your team. Really appreciate all the hard work. And I know there was so much that had to be done. So thank you. The campuses look amazing. And I know there were some updates to our kitchens and some of the other areas at the campuses. So thank you, and thank your team. I know you all worked really hard. So we really appreciate the work. And our very own Sue Hook celebrated her anniversary. How many years? 35. She started teaching when she was 15. So thank you, Sue. We had so many celebrations. It was great to see longevity here. Mr. Kilty, who has actually been here since kindergarten. So we like to, teach you and then you stay. So it's really telling of the kind of leaders that we have here because people don't leave. So also wanted to thank you. And I also want to just do a public thank you to Mr. Alex Sinar, who will be transitioning to other opportunities, but thank him for his hard work, his dedication. He was at Royal Oak with my children, and I just appreciate his leadership and the work that he's done and the lefting mark he's had. So I wanted to publicly thank him And let's have a great school year. Looking forward to our student reps. So when will we get our student reps? Okay. Thank you all. Let's have a great year, and looking forward to another wonderful year. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Aguilar?
Thank you. Yeah, this the beginning of the year is always super exciting, and this year maybe more than other years. I'm not sure. I feel like it's palpable, the excitement. You know, the welcome back event that we were able to attend on Monday was outstanding. The tunnel was fantastic. Speaking of our amazing programs, we had the cheer group out there. We had the band out there. It just was getting everybody, all the teachers and staff, just really excited. I was really excited, and that was awesome. As Mr. Strikula alluded to, you know, thank you to Dr. Jordan and his team for putting on a wonderful slideshow presentation, including many senior portraits of various alum that work in our district or for or support our district. So that was really special. And then a special thank you also to Drs. Kim and Abrahamson for their breakdancing routine. I know not everyone got to see that, but yeah, it does deserve an applause. Yeah, so fantastic breakdancing. We will see you guys LA 28, right? I guess we'll see.
Actually,
All right.
breakdancing's not, they took it off.
Oh yeah, then we won't see you, unfortunately. I think they saw their routine and they said, maybe next. Okay.
Between them and Australia, it's a toss.
Yeah. And then, of course, to all of our students and the teachers in the classroom, but the students that returned this week, yesterday, I went and made a couple of pickups. I have, you know, a niece and a nephew at 2 different sites, so I got to experience the pickup at 2 different places. It was great. Honestly, it was actually really smooth, and I don't really say that in jest. It was super smooth. I loved it. But really, what was special is, as I got to one of the elementaries early, and I'm waiting to pick up my nephew. You're seeing all the TKers or the kindergartners, whoever they may be, the little ones, I'll say. All right? I don't know their exact grades, but the little ones. And they're coming out and they're lining up, getting ready, and their parents are right there too, outside the gate, and they're excited, and there's balloons, and they're clapping and waving their hands. And I thought, yeah, that's really special. I love that, right? Seeing that first day of school that everyone experiences is really awesome. So just a huge encouragement to everyone, you know, the students especially, to start strong and just keep pushing, and we'll sprint to the finish line. I know it's 9 months away. It seems forever from now, but it'll come sooner than we all think. So, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, ma'am. And just to echo what everyone's saying, welcome to the school year again. Mr. Montez, thank you for dropping off some edibles for us. Not some food. Sorry.
Chicken.
Yeah.
Chicken.
Yeah, the food and the drink.
Chicken for the
Thank you.
notes, please.
Yeah.
Chicken,
Yeah,
thank you.
chicken. Dinner. There you go. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. And it's I saw you, I think, more this summer than I did my wife at all the different events. So.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
You were one of the ones that suffered in the heat with me while we were waiting for our children.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beauty and the Beast, the summer program at Royal Oak was fantastic. Bob the Marquis looks great up there. Thank you for all the work on that. Nicole did a fantastic job with that program over there, and I appreciate all her efforts and all her coaches. Something that I noticed when I was driving around at all the school sites was all the crossing guards that were out and about, already in mid-season form with their waving of the signs, so I appreciate all their effort. The welcome back event was fantastic. Another great speaker, Dr. Jordan. I don't want to comment on the break dancing over there. No. But I am a little disappointed that you can't participate in 28 in Los Angeles, you know. You're still synchronized swimming. Yes, that's true. Yeah. And all the talk about football, something that we started, girls flag football. So it's fun to see a new sport starting. I'm looking forward to seeing that going on. Joey, great presentation. The social media, the district of choice, all the hard work that you guys are putting into that, I appreciate all the effort. I know it's hard to figure out where we're going, projecting, but I appreciate your efforts. In regards to football, I want to thank Coach Farrar for giving these kids the opportunity to go down to San Diego to play. Doing the college visit is also important, that these kids get to see what these colleges look like. And also congratulations to a few of the players, Colin Berry. He's going to BC, right? LeVar Arrington Jr., Penn State, and then I think Mr. Lyon, Wyoming? Minnesota. So there's a lot of kids getting the D1 offers, getting the D1 scholarships, and Dom and his staff are putting their footprint on their career and hopefully, their educational pursuits also. And by them going to visit colleges, it gives these kids something more to shoot for, to push themselves on the field, to see what's available to them. Looking forward to having our new SRO, Cole Hagel from Covina PD. I actually hired him before I left the agency. He's a good kid, very proactive. His brother also works at the agency, but he's very level-headed, and he's going to do a good job for our district. I had the opportunity to talk to Chief Pavero today, and he's looking forward to a good school year, wants to thank us for his partnership. But overall, I'm just wishing everybody a good school year. Be safe, and thank you all your teachers for all the work you're doing with our kids.
Thank you. Just like everyone has said, welcome back. This year, Dr. Aguilar, like you said, you can really just feel the excitement. And running through that tunnel as an experienced football coach, like I am, I really just... Absolutely. It took me back to those Friday night lights of last year, and so I look forward to doing that again. This year, our district actually celebrates 130 years of being a district, and I think that's really symbolic with the work and the conversations we're having now, because really what we're doing is planning for the next 130 years. We're talking about improving our facilities. How do we make our classrooms modernized for the next generation of students? How do we recruit new students? And that's really going to set us up so that, this school district will look far different than it did when Dr. Jordan started 130 years ago. So we just want to make sure we continue the good work that we're doing here. And I did want to thank everyone for the role that you're all participating in and making that happen. I did want to make a quick announcement about the FAFSA. It is still open. This year's FAFSA is still open. So if you know any students who perhaps want to attend community college or maybe late getting things going, we actually had a decline in FAFSA applications nationwide. So there was a lot of financial aid dollars left on the table. It was due to a variety of reasons, changes in the system, folks not being able to log on, but I did want to just make sure everybody knows it is still open for this current year, and then next year, FAFSA will open in October. And then lastly, I just want to ask everyone to keep me in your thoughts. My daughter is a senior. She started school on Wednesday all by herself, and she's growing up, so just keep me in your thoughts in these difficult times. I don't know how Jeanette has made it all these times. It's been tough, guys. But with that, that concludes my comments. We do not have a need for additional closed session, so we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:06. Don't go anywhere, though, because now we have to open up. I'm sorry, what? Oh, we need to open up our annual meeting of the Charter Oak Unified School District Finance Corporation. This meeting will open at 8:07 p.m. The Charter Oak Unified School District Financing Corporation holds an annual meeting according to the bylaws of the corporation. This enables the district to maintain the corporation as a viable mechanism for future finance. There being no business, this meeting is now closed at also 8:07 p.m. Thank you. Now you may leave. Thank you.